Hey everybody, Luke Gordon here, and in this video today we're going to talk about a question I get a lot from people with vertigo, which is how long does vertigo last? Now I'm going to answer that question. It's kind of from a few different angles, because the first way you could look at it is if you're having inner ear vertigo like BPPV, how long does each little episode last? So for instance, if you're changing positions, how long does that last? Just, the initial wave of vertigo or that sensation of spinning or movement. But then you could also look on it like how long is this going to last, for weeks, months, years, where every time I move this way, is it going to keep going? So I'm going to look at it from those two lenses first, and we're going to talk specifically about BPPV, which is that inner ear vertigo with little crystals get loose from your inner ear and they're floating in the canals. So a good place to start actually is just to make sure that you have BPPV, which I've got a video on that I'll link at the end, which I'll link right here too. If you're not sure what's causing your vertigo, it's difficult to answer this question and make any sense out of it. But if you're pretty sure you have BPPV, then we can really talk about it and dissect this. So let's say that you have identified that, you're pretty sure you have it. So again, it's positional vertigo. You do certain position changes, and then you get that spinning sensation. So it could be getting up and down from bed. It could be tipping your head back like in the shower, or bending forward like when you're going to get your shoes and socks on. It could be rolling over in bed. So you think you have BPPV. How long does it last? Well, when you have those initial episodes, for the most common type of BPPV, it should only last 10 to 30 seconds at a time. So again, let's say that you are getting up or you're laying down into bed, and that's when it usually gets you. Usually within 10 to 30 seconds, it's going to go away. And that's indicative of the most common type of vertigo, which again, BPPV, but this time the most common type of that is the posterior canal. And that's the one that you're going to see a lot of videos on. I talk about it a lot. You'll see videos on how to do the Epley maneuver to get rid of it. So that type of vertigo, again, should last 10 to 30 seconds at a time. So that's just kind of the immediate onset. So over time, though, if you're saying, well, how long is that going to go on, where every time I tip my head back and forth or get in and out of bed, is it going to keep happening? And the answer to that question of how long does it last is pretty much typically until you get it treated. So there are instances where it'll just spontaneously resolve itself, whether you do enough head movements that you get lucky and it kind of relocates those crystals, or sometimes they'll dissolve. That happens a little bit. Kind of just depends. But for the most part, those episodes of BPPV, even if they're only 10 to 30 seconds long, those episodes are still going to last until you effectively treat it with something like the Epley maneuver. So I've seen clients that have had the sensation of vertigo for years before they finally get in, and then within 2 treatments, we're pretty much able to get rid of all of it. So that, of course, tells me, leads me to tell them, why didn't you just get it done sooner? But they didn't know. So that's just how it is. Hopefully these videos will help so that you don't run into that situation. So that's the most common type. Again, posterior canal, BPPV. The episodes themselves are typically going to last 10 to 30 seconds. That can go on for a long time, years in some cases, until you get it treated. If you have the less common variant of BPPV, which is horizontal canal, and you're doing like a roll test, so people typically get this when they roll over in bed, they'll get a real strong sensation of movement or spinning. That, when you're doing positional testing or you're having that, again, laying in bed, that can last longer than 10 to 30 seconds. It can last for a minute, 2 minutes, even longer sometimes, depending on kind of where those crystals are located in relationship to the other inner ear anatomy. So that can last a lot longer. That's one of the kind of the hallmark signs differentiating between a posterior canal and a horizontal canal vertigo. The other thing, of course, is the eye movements. So if you're looking at eye movements, they're quite different. I've got videos on that as well that you can check out. So that type of vertigo, again, is going to last longer in terms of the initial duration. When you have the positional change, it could last a long time. And then same thing with posterior canal. Typically, those episodes can happen. They can keep happening recurrently until you get it treated. This time, you're not going to do the Epley maneuver. You're going to do something like the Gaffani maneuver, which, again, I'll link some videos here at the end. So that pretty much covers the question of how long does it last in terms of BPPV, positional vertigo. The other thing I wanted to mention in this video, though, is that you have other things that cause vertigo. You have things like Meniere's disease. You have things like neuritis or inner ear infections, things like that. Now, that vertigo is a little different. It's typically characterized by more just like vertigo throughout the day, even when you're sitting and resting. So that's a lot different. That's more related to a medical condition that's happening. And so that the answer to that is much more across the board. And, you know, when you're having like Meniere's disease, it can kind of come and go. But when it comes, it's typically there all the time. So it's there throughout the day, as opposed to BPPV, where when it comes, it's fairly predictable because it's with certain position movements. It's with different changes in the position of your head. And as your head moves, those crystals move in the canal. So it's more predictable. So that's kind of a quick answer to that one, because again, depending on your medical diagnosis and what's causing the vertigo, it could last a long time. It could come and go. It's really quite diverse in that regards. So I hope that helps in terms of, you know, that question, how long is this going to last, both in terms of that short term and the longer term. If you've had experience with this and it's, you know, you've been able to get rid of it, or you've learned some things that help people answer this question, please post your advice and your story below. I think people actually do look in the comments these days and they say, okay, well, they're looking for, you know, someone with a similar story to theirs, and can you help them understand what's going on with them? Can you explain a little bit about what successful treatment looked like for you? So hopefully today's video just helps you kind of understand those pieces in terms of the time element. And then I've got lots more videos on vertigo, so please check those out. As always, like, subscribe, leave me a comment before you go. I would appreciate that. Thanks for watching.